Why is sales so attractive to so many people? How does someone maintain a healthy headspace
Mhm.
whilst operating in the sales industry? Welcome, everyone, to the main journey, a way for you to join me on a learning journey through life. My name is Samuel Main, and today we welcome Moose Reed to the show. Welcome, Moose. Thank you for joining me.
Samuel, thanks for having me. Excited to be here. And man, that was quite the intro. I liked it.
I like it. Yeah, gotta find it out, gotta make it as good as it can be. So,
Nailed it.
Moose, we both work online, but I come from a fulfillment point of view, having always worked kind of behind the scenes, and you are in the world of sales, a scary, scary place. So, can
You're
you
always
lead the way?
always 30 days out, right? Always 30 days out from getting canned.
Yeah, always. At most. Can you give me an insight into how did you start your journey in sales?
Gosh, my start in sales, Samuel, it has been quite the journey. So hope you've got your dinner ready and we can
Ready to
we can
go.
plug into it. But so I started in sales 13 years ago now. I always say that my first sale was when I walked onto the Florida State football team. So I grew up story of Rudy, right? Diehard Florida State football fan. And I didn't really have dreams of playing in the NFL. Of course, if I made it, that'd be cool. But what I really had dreams of doing was playing football at Florida State University, right? So I'm a white boy, 194 pounds going into college. I played linebacker. Linebacker, the guys who were playing with me were 240, 250, and they ran a 4.3 40, maybe a 4.5 40. And I used to tell people that my 40 was a forever. So I was slow as hell. So my first sale ever, I would go up to the football office every single day once I got started in college. If you know anything about football, or for anyone who's listening, it was Bobby Bowden's last semester as head coach. He's a Hall of Fame coach. And I would go to the office and talk to the secretary and say, "Hey, my name is Jonathan Reed. I'm here to walk onto the football team. It was a lifelong dream. I'm going to do it." And every day they would tell me no. They would say, we're getting ready for the fall season. It's 2009. Nothing's happening. Thanks for coming by. Right. And I went back every single day until one day, it was literally a semester later. Every single day, me and my buddy used to run to the stadium and go up together. But one day I got a phone call from a guy by the name of Odell Higgins, who's still today a coach at Florida State, right? Another Hall of Fame coach. And he was like, "Yo, kid, I heard you've been showing up every single day. I need some punching bags at linebacker. If you really want to play football, come out to the field tomorrow at 8 a.m. and we'll see how much you really want to play." you know, so I go out and the tryout, there were about 20 of us, and the tryout was not about skill. It was not about anything else. It was just about who wants to be there, right? They literally just made us line up on one side of the field, do 10 push-ups, run to the other end of the field, do 10 sit-ups, run back, 9, all the way down to one. At the end of it, there were about 5 of us who stuck it out and wanted to play football, So that was always my first sale that I ever made, right? Proved that I wanted to
Telling
be there
yourself.
until I got a phone call. Exactly. Selling myself. And it worked out, man. But from there, the next semester, as we were going into football season, because that was the spring semester, as we were going into football season, my family was always very well to do growing up. And my father was in timeshare sales and he was a kick ass salesperson, right? But when I went home from college, I found my family living in a hotel. We had lost everything in the 2010 crash. When the market took a hit, the timeshare industry really took a hit. And my dad, typical sales guy, not bashing him, just never managed his money well at all. And everything was in one month, out the next month. So, sorry, hold on one second, my dog. Sorry. So anyways, I found my family living in a hotel and I had a decision. I was either going to drop out of school and go help my family or continue playing ball, which was my dream my entire life. and I decided to drop out and get into sales, right? An hourly job wasn't going to help me and my family. So I had to figure it out, right? I got a job selling timeshare. Did very well, especially for a 19-year-old kid. Once my family got back on their feet a little bit, I decided that I was going to go back and finish my football career, right? Uh, I went to a college called the College of New Jersey up in Princeton, or up in Trenton, New Jersey, where it was D3. I might get a little bit of playing time. And while I was there, it was a lot more expensive because it was out of state and it was a small school. It's not like they gave me any type of scholarship or anything, right? So I had to figure out how I was going to pay for it. So I did something you're probably familiar with it called Cutco knives. You ever hear of
Yes.
Cutco?
Yeah, is that
It's
the Hal Elrod as well?
who what was it?
Hal Elrod, he talks about selling knives, and that was his come up in sales.
Yeah, I haven't heard that, but yes, I mean, I don't. There's only one door-to-door knife company that I know of. So if he was selling knives door to
Yeah,
door, I'm sure that's what it was,
yeah.
right? And really that changed my life. Really, that was the
Wow.
foundational point that changed my life. They teach you like network marketing. Start with your warm market, friends, family. With everything my family just went through, I didn't have a warm market to sell to. I couldn't go to my mom and be like, Mom, do you want to buy these $2,000 knives? Right. Like, so instead, I had to find a way to make it work. I asked my regional manager for a list of people in Princeton that had bought knives over the last year, right? And I would call them and say, "Hey, I'm a cute college kid. I get to come to your house and sharpen your knives. I get college credit just for showing you, just for sharpening your knives." Then while I was there, I would cross sell them and upsell them on other knives. Well, from there, right, I got into a very prestigious network of people that were all referring me to each other, right? Hey, you'll love this kid. He came by, sharpened my knives. He sold me $1,000 worth of knives. You got to meet him, right? Turns out they all work for this company called BlackRock. BlackRock is the world's largest asset manager company of with $9 trillion assets under management, right? And eventually, after selling 50 families in BlackRock Cutco knives, they started having conversation and said, "Hey, if you ever want to stop selling knives and come sell mutual funds, come and work for me." Right?
Love it.
That led to BlackRock, and it's been history ever since.
So interesting. So
Yeah.
Hal Elrod, he wrote the book Miracle Morning, and then also the Happiness Equation, which you may have heard.
Oh, okay. I know the happiness
So
equation.
yeah, so his entry into sales was through also that same company, I believe, in selling knives. So it's just super interesting.
That's really cool. I'll have to look it up. I've never read the happiness
Yeah,
equation, but my wife has it. I need to read it.
yeah, that's really interesting. I
Yeah.
actually want to revert back to when you mentioned about essentially being an athlete and then also carrying over into sales.
Yeah.
I've seen this a lot with many people that were previous athletes, then also very successful in what they do
Yeah.
in business. Um, what do you feel are some of the skills that may be transferred from being an athlete to then now working in business and in sales?
Yeah. We live in this really weird time, Samuel, right? Growing up, I think we're about the same age. Yeah. Do you mind if I ask you how old are you?
I am 30,
You're
30.
30. Yeah, I'm 31. So we're right around the same
Yeah.
age, right? And growing up, being a salesperson was never this sexy thing,
Yeah.
right? All of a sudden today in 2022, everyone under the sun wants to be a remote salesperson, right? Well, a lot of people are getting started in this industry without having any sales experience. And they're like, oh, what do I talk about if I don't have any experience? Should I talk about my training? Should I talk about my
Mhm.
certification? I'm like, no, that's the worst thing in the world that you can talk about, right? Like, I don't care who you bought
Yeah.
sales training from because I don't know them, you know? Um, Really what I want to hear about is the hardest thing that you've ever persevered through in your life,
Right.
right? The way that I got my first sales job in timeshare was going to a guy who worked at a timeshare resort. I asked for the VP of sales, right? And I said, "Hey, man, I sold myself onto the Florida State football team. I don't know what timeshare is, but if you give me a shot, I guarantee I'll figure this out, right?" So, how does it translate? perseverance. If you're an entry level salesperson, your story to land your first sales job should be the hardest thing that you've ever persevered through. It doesn't have to be the story of walking onto the FSU football team, but there's something out there that you've persevered through. And a lot of times that is your athletic background,
I love
right?
that.
And how you came out on top. But obviously teamwork and then competitiveness, right? If you were a football player, right, or a soccer player or a basketball player, there was at some point in your career someone who is right on your ass who is trying to take your job, which is what sales is every single day, right? Usually, too, there's someone who's right ahead of you and you're working your ass off trying to take their job, right? So your athletes typically have that eat or kill what you eat mentality, and they carry that over to their career as well.
Yeah.
You know,
I love that. I love that resilience, that perseverance, and that competitiveness. Because, like you said,
yep.
that is ultimately what makes salespeople successful from my exposure so far. So, why is sales so attractive to so many people?
Because it's so marketed so heavily nowadays, right? I wish I could say it otherwise, right? But you hear about these one-off months where like people make 20, $30,000. I've had salespeople that have made $100,000 in commission in a given month, right?
Oh,
And it's marketed because I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but because there are so many sales trainers in the market that are selling sales training, right? They will say, "Oh, this salesperson made $100,000 this month, and then you can do it too." And it's like, "Oh, fuck, I can go from making $3,000 a month at my 9 to 5 to 100,000. I'm in."
yeah.
You know, especially though it's advertised, you can do it working 20 hours a week. Like, what a load of shit.
I love that you mentioned selling to salespeople because obviously in my industry from coaching, it's always like coaches coaching coaches who are coaching
Oh
coaches.
man,
And it's like this never ending spiral.
yes, it's like this year or the last 4 years, right? It's gone from coaching coaches to then the same coaches at the top of the pyramid have broken off to be like, this is how you be a great salesperson, right?
Yeah.
Now it's salespeople selling salespeople selling salespeople.
Right.
It's
Great.
crazy, man. It's
So,
crazy.
with sales, like you said, there is the opportunity that
Yeah.
you can have these unbelievable months. And I've seen that in business. I've seen people achieve that. Alongside that, there becomes this emotional roller coaster
Hmm.
that comes with being in sales. You have
Hmm.
these amazing months, you have these rock bottoms. How does someone um, maintain a healthy headspace
Hmm.
whilst operating in the sales industry?
You're so right, Samuel. Right, and this is why I talk to salespeople, and when I talk to them, I want to know what they've persevered through. Right, because the truth of the matter is, if they've gone their entire life just sitting on their ass playing Call of Duty, eating Cheetos, like they probably haven't persevered through enough to be good at sales. Right, because anyone can be good in sales when you're having a great month. Right, that's so easy. Right, yeah. You think you're God's gift to earth, you think you have a magic tongue, and no matter what you say, everyone's going to buy. But are you going to be the guy who quits during your first down month? Ultimately, selling is just a portion of being involved in the market, right? And I've never seen an amazing salesperson who can outperform the market that they are in, right? So how do we manage our emotions? One of my first sales managers ever, when I went into my first slump ever, when I got started in timeshare, I came out hot, Samuel. Woo! I was like this 18-year-old kid closing deals. I closed a 20 grand deal one of my first days, got a standing ovation. Everyone was like, wow, this kid's magic. I was like, yo, I'm just magic, fam. That's what it's about. I didn't know any better, right? So when I went cold, I went really cold, and I was like, "Yo, I suck. My life sucks. My life has fallen apart. My dog left me. My girlfriend left me." Right? It hits hard, right? So one of my first sales managers, his name is John Meadows. I'm still in touch with him today. Said, "Ride your highs low and ride your lows high," meaning that when things are going great, that's when you work your ass off, right? When you're closing at a high conversion, you better be taking time after calls to cold call, because eventually the market's going to come back down and you're going to feel that as well, right? So hit your highs like your life depends on it, right? But at the same time, when things are not going in your favor, right? So many sales reps try and push through it and try and work harder and try and put in extra hours. And it just puts them into the hole further and further, right? When instead, that's the time that they should take time off, take their foot off the gas, have a beer, relax, because the market will bounce back, right?
Yeah.
So ride your highs low, meaning that when things are going great, you're working your ass off like things are going terribly, right? When things are going bad, breathe, baby. Tomorrow's a new day. Once the market rebounds, you'll capture the upside, right?
Love that. That I can see how that can allow you to maintain
Yep.
throughout, the ups and the downs. So you mentioned about, well, we've spoken about the emotional headspace.
Yep.
What other mistakes are salesmen or salespeople, sorry, making?
Yeah. So many. Where where do
How
where
long
do
have we
we
got?
start? Do you want me do you want
What's
me to
the
start
what's the most
in
common?
the most common is this? I'll go with two. So the first one is the new salesperson who thinks that this path is easy, which
Hmm.
is what we've been talking about, right? They go cold and they're like, oh, the sales trainer who I paid 10 grand to didn't tell me that this was going to happen, right? And they leave the industry, especially in this remote high ticket sales online space.
Yeah.
The average lifespan of a sales rep is 4 months. And that comes from me onboarding 3,000 sales reps. It's not just me making numbers up, right? It's 4 months, right? So if you can't handle that volatility, don't get involved. Go do something else, you know? So the second piece of it is the top. This is actually from the opposite perspective. The top performers feel so entitled,
Mm.
right? And they are great salespeople, which is amazing, right? But I'll say this: I have seen very average salespeople getting onto an amazing offer, and they make great money, right? And I've seen really great salespeople get onto an average offer and they go bankrupt, right? So there's a lot to say about the type of offer that you take on, and the space isn't what it was 4 years ago, where leads are going to be handed to you, especially as the
Yeah.
economy starts to shift. Marketing budgets are contracting, right? Leads are getting more expensive. They're not getting placed onto your calendar like they once were. And if you think that this is 2018 where leads just show up and they're like, oh, this whole VSL game is new, I'm ready to buy because I went through the VSL, you got another thing coming, right? You have to, yes, salespeople, especially if they're commission only, should expect a certain amount of inbound leads. I know that we were talking about that, right? But at the same time, if they are not willing to follow up with those leads, I've had sales reps ask me to hire a virtual assistant for them so that they don't have to follow up with people. Like, don't be a lazy fuck.
Yeah.
you know, don't be lazy. That's insane, right? If you're not willing to pre or uh, confirm your calls before they come, don't be a lazy fuck. like
So
I hate to say it, but there's this entitlement that is blowing good salespeople out of the water. What I believe, Samuel, this is something really good for us to keep in mind, both of us, is that in the next 6 months, right, who we recognize as top performers in the market will no longer be top performers because lead generation is going to change so much, right? And the person who was once a inside sales rep or a setter, right, who's now doing a hybrid role will become the top end of the market.
yeah, it's definitely these last couple of years has changed so much
Yep.
from that lead gen point of view, from the sales point of view. It's noticeably got more and more challenging and required a higher level of service, and a completely unique approach. So, from your perspective, being on that front line, what's the transition through COVID been like, and this massive shift online? How have you?
So there's so many ways that I can go about this, Samuel. So I'll go from my personal perspective first, right? So 6 months ago, I was recruited away from this high ticket space, right, to go into international logistics,
Yeah.
right? So exactly what we were just talking about. It's all about catching an offer at the right time and I would rather sell something that's high demand than something that is sexy.
Yeah.
Right. So before COVID, a 40-foot container from Shanghai to Long Beach was $2,500.
Mhm.
Right. As COVID happened and labor shortages started, et cetera, they went from $2,500 to above $20,000. Right. So our margins in logistics stayed the same.
Yeah. Wow.
Right. So I never wanted to get into logistics. I was headhunted for this role and was like, when I heard that from the CEO, I was like, okay, this makes sense. That's
Yeah.
outpacing inflation.
That's incredible.
so so that got me excited for it, but it was catching an industry that was set to go
Yeah.
because of COVID, right? This high ticket online space. And I think that has less to do with COVID and more with other factors. With COVID, right? The macroeconomics, right? The S&P was up 30% the
Mhm.
year that COVID started,
Yeah.
right? So everyone wants to talk about, oh, my business did this during the year of COVID. Well, the entire world did better
Yeah.
in the year of COVID. That's a bullshit example, right? How are you going to do when the market shifts, right? Which we're starting to experience
We're
this
coming
year.
into that right now.
We're coming into that right now, right? That's a much bigger issue. And as we talked about, leads are going to get more expensive. Bookings are going to get more expensive. Calls are going to get more expensive. Marketing budgets are going to constrain because instead of going from a 10 ROAS, you go to a 4 ROAS,
Hmm.
right? There's not going to be as much volume for salespeople, so you have to take care of the ones that you're with. The issue with this, and not the issue, but the hard thing to say about this is that it's still not that tough, Samuel, right? To be a good salesperson, there's different organic strategies that you can use to make your calls extremely worthwhile. But what it takes is a little bit of foresight and a little bit of organization. And most sales reps don't want to do that,
Mm. I like that.
right? If in fact, like if you look at my page, Samuel, right? The reason why I can manage as much as I manage is because I have VAs doing almost my entire life, right?
Yeah.
But when you're a salesperson, you don't think you want to believe that you are the it factor and that everything is happening as a result of what you yourself do, right?
Hmm.
Versus if someone can do 80% of what you do, I'd rather have them do it, right? It was my wife's birthday last weekend. We went to Miami. I got her a birthday cake. I got her to a football game. I took her to dinner, right? We did all these things, but with my schedule, there's no way that I can do all that stuff. But the reason I was able to do that stuff is because I had a VA who set all of it up, right?
So great.
So when prospects are talking to me in Messenger, it's usually because I have a really good VA that I've trained up carrying that conversation until I'm on the call, right? When people are getting random friend requests from me, it's usually my VA adding my target audience, right? When when I'm getting more bandwidth on my Facebook page because my friends list is maxed out, it's usually my VAs who are deleting the people who are inactive on my page, right? So I can make sure my organic reach is as high as it should be. You know, if you
Love
start
it.
structuring your schedule like that, you can still be a badass salesperson, but you got to be willing to give up a little bit of your margin first and be willing to invest a couple hours to get organized.
This has been a game changer for me. So I have two people on my team, and I would not be able to operate at the standards which I now do without these two people on my team.
Yep.
And creating that leverage, developing those processes, those systems, it genuinely took my working week from 40, 50, sometimes 60 hours down to, sometimes being less than 20 hours and my out
Yes.
higher.
Yes, you're so right. You're so right. It's funny. I had a guy in logistics the other day reach out to me and purchase a virtual assistant, right?
Mhm.
And he's like, "What is it that a virtual assistant can do?" And I was like, "Dude, my VA, her name is Marie. She's amazing." I was like, "She's a better director of sales and logistics than I am."
So great.
But it's just because if you are good at setting up systems and you can outline an exact process for them, you can teach it to anyone. It's the same thing with sales, right? When a business owner goes off the phones, it's not about having the best salesperson. It's about, can you create a system that's easy enough for the salesperson to fulfill, you
Yeah,
know?
love that. So if you was to start again in sales, clean slate,
Yeah.
and I don't know, let's say we set a target of you wanted to hit 10K in commission in a month.
Yep.
What steps would you take?
Yep. Good question. First thing that I would do if I had to start over again, like without any sales experience.
Let's go from fresh. Yeah, complete fresh.
Okay. All right. The first thing that I would do, this is an interesting question because I just looked this up the other day, just out of curiosity. First thing I would do is I would look at the macro trends of the market to figure out what was selling,
Hmm.
right? I wouldn't guess. Every business owner that's trying to hire you is going to sell that they have a great product to sell,
Yeah.
right? Well, if I look in 2021, what sales professionals made the most income? There are infinite amount of salespeople, Samuel, who online who made $50,000 a month every month. But man, if you make $400,000 a year, you're also the top 1% of the world. So somebody's lying to me.
Yeah.
I don't know who it is, but somebody's lying to me, right? So if I look at the top earning sales professionals in 2021, what I actually found is that it is Google, I believe it was Google Cloud salespeople.
Wow.
I would have never guessed that in a million years. And the median income for that sales role was $550,000 for the year.
It will cover the bills.
It'll cover the bills, right? It's a pretty good living, right? Um, so that's the first thing that I would do. Now, naturally, when I pulled that up, I was like, okay, who are salespeople who are selling this product, right? Um, and man, technology is a beautiful thing, Samuel. Can if I had to do that process 10 years ago, finding that person
No chance.
couldn't have done it,
Yeah.
right? But now you go into LinkedIn and you search that role, and you can find 100 people with that role very, very easily, right? So my first step would be reach out to that person and say, hey, how did you get this role?
Love
Right.
it.
And
Love it.
then I would take whatever path they mentioned. The problem is their path is not going to be an easy path. And that's what everyone's looking for. Everyone will buy the pill that makes them skinny, but they won't buy the personal train that tells them to do the push-ups and the sit-ups. Right.
Yeah.
So the path that they're going to tell me to take for this role in particular is going to be 3 years of SaaS sales, right? Go and get an entry level SaaS job, go and be a setter for 3 years, build up the resume, and then come back to them, right? Everyone's like, oh, I've got a 6-month game plan to make $550,000. Why? Why?
Yeah. It's the level of opportunity in sales is mind blowing.
Yes.
It really is. But for me, having now dabbled in sales, and I've sold packages up to around 15K. So I've had a little bit of exposure, more than most. Like the thought of having a full calendar of sales calls is like a
Yeah.
nightmare for me.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
because I think where I come from a coaching background, I'm just like, no, that is not what I want. I don't get energized by that. Whereas I know that someone who loves sales, that's like a perfect day.
Samuel. Oh, I don't know. I disagree. I think that a sales rep who is willing to take 8 calls a day, 9 calls a day,
Yeah.
right? Sales reps are going to be pissed off at me for saying this, right? But 8, 9 sales calls a day are sheer laziness, right? You should take, as a sales rep, no more than 5 calls a day, 5 inbound calls a day. At 5 inbound calls a day, now you're going to end up with 3, maybe 4 calls that day,
Yeah.
right? At 3, 4 calls, let's say you block off an hour, which most offers aren't an hour these days. Most of them are 30, 45 minutes,
Mhm.
right? But let's say it's an hour for worst case scenario. Now you've given yourself 3 hours to follow up with people, right? 3 hours to get creative in your outreach, which are going to be warmer leads, right? It's 3 hours to manage yourself so that you can think clearly and effectively versus trying to grind through. One of my mentors, one of my very good mentors, and hopefully he sees this. He used to tell me, and this is really when the game changed for me, that working hard is sheer laziness.
Oh, I like that.
Right? Isn't that good?
Yeah, I like that a lot. I'm a big fan
Yeah.
of that.
Isn't that good? And it probably took me a year under working for this mentor
Mhm.
for that to click.
Yeah.
He even paid for my VAs, my first two VAs, right? And trying to get me to realize this concept. And because it never clicked, I did a terrible job managing them. We ended up having to fire them. They're probably good VAs, dude. It
Yeah.
was my own fault,
Yeah.
but I didn't understand. And that, but once it clicked, it was like, oh, now it clicked.
Yeah. I've had to fire coaches that, upon reflection, was my own poor leadership at that time.
Yes,
So I
yes.
definitely
And
definitely see that.
you have to go through it,
Yeah. Oh,
right? It's almost like that moment is the coaching that you needed.
yeah.
It's like, oh shit, now I get it.
I love that approach. The working hard is sheer laziness because
Yes.
you're putting off learning a better way.
Yes. Yes. It's just like, let me do the grunt work and push through
Yeah.
versus building out my process. A lot of times, especially as salespeople, you already know what the process is,
Hmm.
right? We were talking about organic outreach. It's adding people.
Yeah.
If you add 100 people a
And
day,
people starting conversations is
yes,
not complex.
that's it, right? But clicking the add 100 people a day is a process, and then teaching your VA or whatever to click add 100 people a day. It's like, oh, I'll just do it myself. Oh, I'll just do it myself. Why? Invest an hour teaching someone to do it so that you never have to do it again.
I love that. Love that.
Yeah.
So I want to delve into a little bit more of like team management, specific
Yeah.
sales team management. So to give a little bit of background, right now I'm actually managing a sales team, not really through choice, but through necessity for what this business needs at this current stage.
Mhm.
And I know that there is considerably so much more that I could be doing.
Yep.
So I'd love to know um, what is the best way, in your opinion, to manage a high ticket sales team?
Yep. So with your situation,
Mhm.
Samuel, I know that you're in a little bit of a different situation, right? So I have some advice for you. I'm sorry, it's probably not the advice that you want to hear. Is that okay?
Absolutely, that's why I'm here to learn. And just to give you some insight, so we have two closers and now three setters as well.
Yep. Yep. So the first thing that I would do, right? The setters are new.
One is relatively experienced, the other two, I mean, I hired them on Monday. Today's
I
film.
mean, new to the org, right? Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So the first thing that I would do, right? Whew, is start off in the setting process yourself, Samuel.
Yeah.
Right? Um, what's the guy's name? Why am I drawing a blank? The founder of Wendy's.
Couldn't tell you.
Hang on, hang on,
I
hang
can
on.
Google it.
That's what I'm doing. Oh, Dave. What's his last name? Dave
Dave
Thomas.
Thomas. There we
Dave
go.
Thomas. There you go. So Dave Thomas, right? Before he started Wendy's, he started off during the Great Depression as a busboy,
Yeah.
right? And he worked every job in a restaurant to understand the foundings of the job, right? And this is the step that so many business owners miss when they scale out a team. They scale out a team because they have 90% of the pieces in place, but they haven't yet worked the piece that they're hiring for to know that it is in fact scalable first, right? So first thing, dive into the setting process, right? Prove that it can be done because
Yeah.
I guarantee you 100%, you've sold $15,000 packages. You can do it. You run a business, you can do it, right? From there, same thing that we talked about. Build out a process and then teach the process, right? After you do that, and after your setters are getting calls booked for the closers, jump on a couple of calls and figure out how they're coming through, right? You can tell the difference between a
Yeah.
good lead and a bad lead, right? Once you're closing some calls, you know that it's scalable, right? And now you pass it off to the closers. You create your process for the closers and pass it off for them, right? As far as managing in the high ticket space, what most managers do, right, is they listen to call reviews, and then they give one-on-one coaching that say, I heard the prospect say this, in which case you should say that. But sales is not an if then this scenario, right? The way
Mm.
that you, Samuel, tell me you don't have the money versus the way Joe Schmo tells me he doesn't have the money, even though you both said you don't have the money, could be said two completely different ways. And it takes a little bit of EQ to recognize that. So if you're teaching sales on an if this, then scenario, it's ineffective. So really, doing one-on-ones and doing call reviews is the lowest leverage point a sales manager can take. And that's the way I see all sales managers running their team in the online coaching arena, right? With my call reviews, I got started in this company that I'm at now, right? I had sales reps that have been selling with this company since 89. I could hardly spell logistics when I got started in the space, let alone know what logistics were, right? I was not going to tell people who've been selling for this company since 89 how to sell it better. It's longer than I've been alive, right? So as far as call reviews were concerned, again, I outsourced my call review to a VA who has my process on how to listen to calls. She gives me the coaching points, and then I go back and tell them, hey, here are your coaching points. Here's where we can do better. But I don't waste my time on that. Instead, what I'm working on is velocity of the sales process, right? And then systemizing the sales process. And in logistics in particular, the main thing that I've done is created basically a tracking process on the leads, because there's so many different directions that they can go, that every day I can run a report and now come in and call the plays from my ivory tower and be like, hey, you get
Yeah.
in touch with this person, you get in touch with that person, right? But that's how management should be done. Management should be focused on three things. It should be focused on recruitment of good salespeople, management of good salespeople, which is their one-on-ones and doing pipeline reviews, and then leverage, creating leverage so that the business owner does not have to.
Yeah. I love that you've gone through those three different points. From my perspective, I think I've been really strong in both the recruitment and what was the final one? Sorry, that you said.
Leverage so that the
Leverage.
business owner doesn't have to, right? So
Yeah.
if you're creating, this is a really good example, especially with what you're doing, Samuel, right? If you're creating uh, uh, client success metrics, right? NPS scores, NPS surveys, right? Client health dashboards. That's what I was trying to say, right? Now, what you're actually doing is creating an upsell process for your current sales team. The business owner is not getting involved. They didn't even realize all that revenue that they're missing out on. If you sell a $5,000 program and you have an $8,000 upsell, it's like, oh shit, I can capture that through all the tens of the NPS scores, you know?
Yeah, I think I've been doing very well with recruitment and leverage, but the actual management, I've like intentionally been leaning out because
Yeah, yeah,
it's not something that I really want to pursue, but I'm having to fulfill. So
yeah.
there's so much area for improvement for me.
What does your management process look like?
So right now I have a daily team huddle
Yep.
with all the sales team and then additional one-on-ones. But we are pretty much all just doing setting through DMs on various social platforms.
Yep.
Um, and then we've got right now, so what have we got? We've got active campaign for a CRM, call bookings through Calendly linked up to Zoom. And then we have end of day reporting, which is reviewed by then me and the owner at the moment.
Cool.
And that's reviewed then the following morning, and then targets and everything set for following day.
Okay. The end of day reporting, absolutely. You should be doing that, right?
Yeah.
The daily huddles are probably going to burn the team out. Probably.
Okay.
Okay. So this is something that I talked to a lot of business owners about, right? It's just an update on the cadence. What I
Hmm.
recommend is a Monday team huddle. Everyone gets together.
Yeah.
Right. So in ours, it's me as the DOS. I have a VP of sales who runs our affiliate program. I have two sales reps, two outside sales reps, and then one inside sales rep, et cetera.
Mhm.
right? And then the head of marketing joins that as well,
Yeah.
right? That's to go over the week before, the goals for the week ahead. We do a pipeline review live on that call, right? I do a sales training. It's an hour-long call, and then I get the commitments for the week from the team when we kick off the week. From there, I do one-on-ones throughout the week with my team. I do one-on-one with each team member. And that one-on-one, all I'm doing is asking them what they need help on. And then I do what's called TOing. Are you familiar with that term?
No, I'm not.
It's called a takeover, right? So while I'm reviewing their pipeline, instead of giving them coaching on if then this scenarios, what I'm doing is I'm asking them who needs to be followed up with. They
Mhm.
give me the scenario, and I call as the director of sales, and I take over the call for them and
Yes.
try and close the
Okay.
deal.
Yeah.
Business owners will always ask, so who gets paid out on that? The sales rep. A good sales manager or director is paid on their sales team's performance. It's not, you're not doing it to take their commission, you're doing it to get the deal across.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah. I think I've started with the daily simply so that I can keep that consistent communication with the entire team. But
Yep.
I can also see how that could lead then to burnout. You
So
know,
this is how you do the daily without burning everyone out, right? So do the one-on-ones once per week. From there on Wednesday, we do Wednesday afternoon, we do a war room.
yeah.
On the war room, this is a dial session between all of us, but it's strictly used for a dial session. Now there's a complete strategy involved to it, right? It's not a review of the day before. It's just burnout, right? A dial session is like, yo, and usually on that day I throw out a spiff. It's like whoever gets the most deals during this hour block gets dinner on Moose. You know what
Nice.
I'm saying? Right? And then on Friday, we do what's called coffee with the closers, right? And it's supposed to be everything except for work. It's supposed to be how you doing. But naturally, you have a group of people that have mutual interests, and they end up talking about uh, their mutual interests.
I
Which
like
is work.
that. I like that. And like you say, you get a bunch of competitive people all in a room.
Yep.
Magic or war
Yep.
happens.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
I
Yep.
love that. I love that. So, you mentioned there the spiff. What other examples of rewards or bonuses have you used that have performed well for you?
Yeah. So my favorite is called a spiff ladder, right? A spiff ladder, as a sales manager, it takes a little bit of foresight on the month prior. So let's say right now we just started September, right? So probably the last week of August when I do a spiff ladder, I don't do it all the time. The thing with the spiff for anyone who's listening is special performance incentive fund, right? The main word there is special. If it's not special, if it's not by surprise, it doesn't count, right? You got to get them excited about it. So end of August, what I do is I write up a spiff ladder. So I'll say at 5 deals in a month, right? As an example, you could do it for setters and say 5 sets, whatever. You get to pick prizes A, B, or C, right? A might be like a company t-shirt, right? It could be a set of headphones, cheap headphones, right? Or I don't know, a $20 gift card, right? So that's at 5 deals. Then at 10 deals, you get to pick from prizes A, B, and C. And this is in addition to the first three,
Nice.
right? At 10 deals, you get to pick a a dinner gift card, dinner on Moose, right? You could do a date night on Moose or a Southwest gift card for $100, right?
Nice.
And then where you get this really effective is like when you get to deal 20 and you do the same thing and you make prizes A through C, right? But now you've got like, okay, you've got a $2,000 Southwest gift card, right? A $2,000 Disney gift card, right? Or see, like basically, if you do this correctly, when they get to the top prize, they can build out an entire vacation for them and their family, So they've got something that they're always reaching for. and they'll only be at any time at most 5 deals away from the next rung
Love that.
at most, right?
Cool.
So you ever do those what do they call it? Fundraisers when you're a kid in school?
Oh, we did, but we would pack bags at supermarkets and things like that. Nothing,
There you go.
nothing that sounds like this.
Yeah, so when I was in elementary school, they'd be like, "You sell 5 boxes of chocolate, you get a Tootsie Roll, right?" But at 100 boxes of chocolate, now you get a Super Nintendo. And
Yeah,
it's like it's the same thing.
natural incentive.
Yes, yeah.
Really, really
So
cool.
that's
Really,
my that's my favorite way to spiff people and get them engaged for the whole month.
definitely got me thinking about, okay, how else can I raise that intensity
Yep,
for that sales team? And they're already competitive. They're already ready to go.
yep.
Uh, our biggest challenge currently is getting calls booked and getting enough calls booked. So
So throw out a spiff just to the setters at first, right? If you
yeah.
have a meeting with just the setters,
Mhm.
throw out a spiff just to them, and they'll be like, "Oh shit!" They'll talk behind closed doors and be like, "Yo, Samuel did this thing. It was kind of cool, you know." And you don't. That doesn't mean you have to go and do it for the closers, right? But see if it generates any spike.
I like that.
You know.
I like that.
The
Moose
thing
is
is, Samuel, I think that you would manage the same way that I do, right? And you can either be manager X or manager Y, right? The example that I always use is football coaching, right? There's two types of football coaches. There are um, manager X, who's like the Tom Coughlin of the world, who's very military and a hard ass and busting your
yeah.
balls and making you hate your life, right? uh but we're in a time when that's not effective anymore, right? Salespeople ultimately have the leverage because there's so many offers that they can go to, especially good ones, right? So if you're the hard ass, you're going to lose your salesperson faster than you know what to do, right? But then there's the opposite side of it, where there's the Pete Carrolls of the world, right? Do you mind if I share my screen?
Absolutely. Give me. Oh, let me just allow you to. So for those listening to the audio, you'll need to come to the YouTube and see the video. But yeah, Moose, you should be able to share your screen.
Cool. So this is Pete Carroll, right? And he won multiple national championships at USC. Now he's with the Seahawks. He's always competitive with the Seahawks. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Right. And with Pete Carroll, like he's a players coach. He loves his players. Like he's known to go out and smoke with his players and a very advocate of weed, right? Like, but when he drafted DK Metcalf, look at this guy. Like he's massive. He's jacked. When he drafted him, he took off his shirt and he's like, "Yo, I'm bigger than you."
That's
Like,
so great.
and the players love him for it, right? So come off season, all the players always want to go and play for Pete Carroll because of how he manages his team, right? Versus Tom Coughlin's a one-hit wonder. No one ever knows where he ends up because players don't want to play for him.
Hmm. So different.
You know?
Yeah, definitely that approach.
Yep. Same. If you couldn't guess.
Yeah, that's absolutely great. What a share as well, guys! You've got to go and check out the video and the picture that Moose just shared. So Moose, I want to first just actually just express my gratitude. There's so much for me to learn in
Yeah.
sales, and honestly, it's been something I've kind of put off. But I can see that okay, I need to step up in this area to support my team further. So I want to thank you for going through all of this stuff in so much detail. And this, I know that we've spoken a lot recently, but there's going to be so many more conversations
Yeah,
coming
absolutely.
coming up. Um, but before we wrap this up, I actually have a question that I ask every single guest that comes onto the show. And
Yeah.
this isn't necessarily just related to sales. And the question itself is, what advice would your future self give you in this current moment?
Oh man. Dude, you got me chills coming down my back and stuff. um it's going to be completely different than what you would expect, Samuel, right? And it's to stick to the game plan, right? And what I mean by that, who, dude, my wife's probably listening to me, so she's gonna be like, "You better," right? For me, I love what I do. I'm passionate about it. I've been doing it for 13 years, right? It's not my end game. Sales for me and sales management for me is a means to an end, right? For me, I want to go and coach high school football, right? The things on my bucket list are to get someone to a Hall of Fame, have them shout me out for being their coach, when they get to the Hall of Fame, right? Those are like my bucket list things.
Yeah.
But we get so busy in our day to day that I could always stay busy in sales,
Mhm.
right? I have a 5-year game plan to get out of sales, to get the passive income rolling, and go and make coaching my full time job, right? But I it's tough for me to do, right? Life gets in the way. You get
Yeah.
bills as you make more money, you take on more expenses, and if I do that, I'll never get there. So also wife and I are trying to get pregnant. So say prayers
Ah,
for us.
yes,
And
sir.
nothing more important than being a good husband and a good father. So my future self, I hope the advice that he would give me is stay on the plan.
I like that. And I think a lot of people can um take a lot away from that too. And
Yep.
a lot of people do know where they want to be and that person they want to be too. And it's just a case of having that resilience to stick to that plan, even when life comes your way.
I feel like a lot of people, Samuel, almost the opposite. They don't know where they want to be, right? And that's why they choose to get into sales, because they're like, I know that I can make a lot of money, but I don't know what the outcome is. And that's why they handle their money so bad, and they are always living paycheck to paycheck, whether they make $20,000 a month or $5,000 a month, right? Versus if you start with the end in mind, now you can put a game plan in place on how to get there, and you can create an actual 5-year game plan on how to get out of the game, right? um it's not as unachievable as you think. The truth of the
Yeah.
matter is, you don't need $50,000 a month every month to get by. I know I don't. If you
Yeah.
want to be the next Warren Buffett and you need that, cool. It's just not what I want, right? I want the time with my family.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people do know where they want to be. They don't always have the courage yet to
Yes.
pursue and follow it.
Yes.
But maybe that's a longer conversation
Yeah.
for us to talk about. But Moose, I just want to express my gratitude. Man, this has been incredible for me. So much for me to take away. And I'm hoping and I know that there's so much value there for others as well. Lots of people that have been watching this are entrepreneurs, people that are going to be, requiring that and wanting those sales. I think it's gonna be a lot to take away. All of your links to your socials and everything is going to be down below. But is
Yep.
there somewhere that people can go and find out a little bit more about you and what you do? Where would be the best place for them to go?
Yeah, so definitely my social. Feel free for anyone who's listening to shoot me a message on Facebook, on Instagram. I'm a lot more active on my Facebook than I am my Instagram, because I haven't assigned my VA to Instagram. But definitely on Facebook, that's the best route that you can go. I'm on LinkedIn. VA's on LinkedIn, so you can reach me on LinkedIn. Also, my phone number is on my page. Always feel free to call me, text me, anything that you need. But Samuel, shout out right back to you, man. Like, I appreciate you having me on. I know that we started our relationship a couple weeks ago. So dude, I appreciate you saying that you're learning a lot. But dude, it goes both ways. I know that you're the best in the space operationally, and anyone who needs help operationally should definitely hire Samuel. Guys, the one of the best things that you can know as a business owner is what your strengths are, but also knowing what your weaknesses are, right? So as a sales director, I know that the worst thing that a business owner could do is hire me operationally. You want to see a business go down the drain, and hire me operationally, and that's what Samuel and I talk about. If you need help with operate or with sales, feel free to contact me, and I've got a good operations guy that I'm in contact with, and he'll come and build this thing out with us, right? And hopefully the same thing. If he needs help sales wise, I'm right in your corner, Samuel. So
Love that.
anything I can help you with, let me know, man.
Amazing. Amazing. Yes, sir. I appreciate the shout out.
Yeah,
Appreciate
of
the
course.
shout out. Right. Moose, appreciate you massively. This has been fun. We're going to have to do this again.
Absolutely, man. Anytime you need anything, always feel free to reach out.
Love it. Thanks, dude.
Cool. Appreciate you, man. Have a great one, bro.
My name is Samuel Main, and I truly hope that you've got value from today's video. If you have, please do hit like and subscribe down below, and I'll see you in the video tomorrow.